Blog Talk Radio.
And if you want to put Islam on trial, you want to put Allah on trial, come on. We're ready to take the stand and defend Allah, defend the Quran, and defend Islam. I'm not backing down at all. We love the Quran, and we believe in it 100%.
Once again, we're back. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum. Today's topic is exposing the myth of the Islamic threat. Now, what do we mean by this? We're not trying to deny that there are Muslims that are out there involved in wrongdoing and wrong activity. That is not what the show is about. When we say exposing the myth of the Islamic threat, what we are saying is that this idea that there is this giant world Muslim conspiracy to kill all non-Muslims and take over the world, we're saying that is a myth, that no such conspiracy exists. It's just falsehood, it's just propaganda. And this type of propaganda is right in line with myths like that which was started back during the early times in America when the movie The Birth of a Nation was started, which was the movie that kind of shot the Ku Klux Klan, the Christian Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, into being a more famous and widespread group. They had spread the idea that all blacks, particularly black men, were out to rape white women and, take over. Same conspiracy nonsense. Same conspiracies in line with ideas that the Native Americans, the Indians, were attempting to harm whites and take over. It's in that same line. So this Islamic threat myth is in the same line of those myths of the past. It is also in the same line of myths that have been propagated of the same type, such as that by the Nazi Minister of Propaganda, Joseph Goebbels, and Julius Streicher, which propagated this idea of the Jewish conspiracy to take over Germany and take over the world. And what's interesting about this is that if you look back at the writings of Joseph Goebbels and Julius Streicher, you will see that today's anti-Islamic bigots are using the same argument and rhetoric and propaganda as Joseph Goebbels. Okay? For example, in the first Nuremberg rally after Hitler took power in 1933, Joseph Goebbels said this, and I quote, "Now, all you have to do is take the word Jew and replace it with the word Muslim today, and you'll see that the people of today, the Robert Spencers, the Daniel Pipes, etc., that they are not saying anything different than what Joseph Goebbels said at his time, the David Horowitz, etc." So here's what he said. Here's what Joseph Goebbels said in 1933. And I quote, he said, "They," talking about the Jews, "work destructively among the peoples and is a constant danger to their, meaning the people's, domestic and international security." Now I have a book here by Paul Sperry, entitled Infiltration. Okay? The book is entitled Infiltration: How Muslim Spies and Subversives have penetrated Washington. And so here he is promoting the same idea of the Muslim, the evil Muslim is attempting to infiltrate America, infiltrate the government, and secretly try to take over. But no, he says, he's not talking about all Muslims. But then when you read the book, he goes and tries to equate the origins of the evil from the Islamic teachings itself, from the book, from the Quran, etc., which is what they all do. They all say, we're only talking about the bad guys. We're only talking about the bad Muslims. But then they make their argument based on, we're talking about the bad guys. But look, the book that all Muslims look at teaches hatred and killing everybody. And, so when you hear it, it's like double talk. We're not talking about all Muslims. We're just talking about the bad ones. But look, the book that every Muslim reads teaches him and her to be this way and to do this. So it's like, wait a minute, you're not talking about all. But how can they not be different from the bad guys, from the bad Muslims, when supposedly their book saying this, and they all read the same books. You see? So that's the double talk that they talk, and the game that they play. Further, on November 16th, 1941, in the weekly newspaper Das Reich, Joseph Goebbels said, and I quote, he said, the responsibility of world Jewry for the outbreak and widening of this war. Sounds familiar? The Jews wanted this war, and now they have it. Sound familiar? I've heard it said the Muslims started this war, and now they got what they asked for. You see? So all you got to do is replace the word Jew, put the word Muslim, and go back and look at the Nazi propaganda, and you see that these people today who, of course, would say, oh, no, they would abhor the teachings of the Nazis and, of course, distance themselves, yet they are using the same propaganda tactics and lies and almost the exact same statements that the propaganda masters amongst the Nazis had used. So it's interesting, you see. So he says the Jews wanted this war, and now they have what they wanted. He said the Jews are our destruction. Again, just replace the word Jew with Muslim, and you'll see that these people are saying the same thing about Muslims today. So he said the Jews are our destruction. They started this war. They wanted to destroy the German Reich and our people. Isn't that what they say about Muslims? The Muslims are our destruction. They started this war on terror too. And they want to destroy America and our people and the American way of life, etc., etc. He also said, there are no distinctions between Jews. Each Jew is a sworn enemy of the German people. I've heard the same thing said about Muslims. There are no distinctions between the Muslims. No Muslim can really be loyal to America as long as you're a Muslim. Blah. Same nonsense. Same nonsense that was said then is being said now. Only thing, they replaced the word Jew with the word Muslim. Okay? Goebbels said further in this same weekly newspaper that the Jews are the enemy agents among us. Again, what do they say? Paul Sperry's book tries to propagate that same idea, that the Muslim is the enemy amongst the American people. You can't trust the Muslims. You have to watch out for the Muslims. You see? They're really in America to conspire to take over. You can't trust them. The fifth element, right, as they say. So it's the same idea. Goebbels said further. He said, if the Jew tries to appeal to your sentimentality, realize that they are hoping for your forgetfulness. Let them know that you see through them and hold them in contempt. Again, they say the same thing about Muslims. That the Muslims, when they try to talk to you, when we try to tell you that we're not terrorists, we don't support terrorism, they give you this idea that they promote this idea of a double face, that the Muslim is being two-faced. That the Muslim is only saying that in your face, but behind your back, he wants to secretly kill you and take over America. He's just telling you that to your face, but behind your back, he really hates you. See? Same exact things. So therefore, when a Muslim is being honest and sincere and saying, look, I don't support terrorism, which we don't, which I don't, and which many Muslims don't, I have lists and articles, hundreds of Muslims, thousands, millions of Muslims who have condemned terrorism, okay? Scholars who have condemned the acts of the terrorists and the things that the terrorists have said and trying to use Islam, refuted their claims and all these things, but yet they keep telling us, where are the Muslims? We don't hear their voice. Where are the Muslims? We don't hear. And we've been speaking out. Muslim individuals, Muslim organizations, been speaking out, but they keep telling us that they don't hear us. I think they don't want to hear us. They don't want to hear us, what I think is the true situation. So as he says here, if the Jew tries to appeal to your sentimentality, realize that they're hoping for your forgetfulness. Let them know that you see through them and hold them in contempt. I just recently saw a video on hotair.com with Robert Spencer from Jihad Watch. And in this video, he was criticizing the Islam is Peace campaign that is some Muslims in the UK are promoting this campaign that Islam is peace. They are sincere Muslims who are trying to counter the anti-Muslim bigotry and propaganda that's being propagated. So they're promoting a campaign to show that Muslims are actually peaceful people, that the majority of us. Again, we're not denying that there are Muslims who are doing wrong, and we condemn those acts. Let me state that again. We condemn the harming of innocent people. We condemn those activities. We condemn terrorist activity from anybody, Muslim, non-Muslim, etc. So we condemn it all. Whether a Muslim does it or a non-Muslim does it, we condemn it all. So let us be clear on that. So the group is trying to promote the idea to counter the misinformation that, look, Islam is not really about the things that you see in the media. These people that are doing these activities are actually in, actually in the minority. The majority of Muslims are not involved in such activity, don't support such activity. Okay? But when you do that, they're not satisfied. They say, oh, he's just saying that. They're just saying that. They don't really mean that. Behind your back, they support them. They're two-faced. Islam teaches you to lie in order, these are the things that I've heard promoted. But guess what? That's the same thing they said about the Jews. Julius Streicher, he used to propagate ideas as the same, that the Jews were allowed to lie to non-Jews to cover up the true Jewish conspiracy. These are the same things they say about the Jews. Now they're telling us, the Muslims, that we're allowed to lie in order to cover up the truth about Islam, which is supposedly this idea that we want to take over, and we're rubbing our hands in secret behind closed doors, ready for the takeover. This is what they want you to believe. You see, this is what they want you to believe. But again, that's the same thing they said about the Jews, that the Jews could lie to non-Jews, that the Jews were secretly conspiring to take over, and they'll lie to the non-Jew in his face and say, oh, we're wonderful, peaceful people, but behind their back, the Jews were really rubbing their hands and the blood is dripping from their teeth ready for the takeover. And now they say that about Muslims. What's even worse, though, is that, unfortunately, some Jews of European ancestry are repeating these same things. You would think that they would say, you know what, I don't want to be any part of that. But there are some Jews of European descent, shame on them for not saying, oh, I don't want to be like what happened to our ancestors. But no, they're repeating the same things that were used against them. Now they are joining in and repeating those same things against Muslims. Shame on them. Shame on them for doing such a thing and partaking of this campaign of anti-Muslim bigotry. Okay? And of course they have their, and it's a list of them. They have their supporters from amongst the target group. For example, they get Arabs who say they're ex-Muslims or claim that they're still Muslims but don't like the teachings of Islam. Get crazy, like things like that. Or people who say they're former Muslims like Ayan Hershey, Wafo Sultan, Walid Shufat, etc., who are joining in promoting the hatred against the people who they claim to have come from. You see? And this is no different from the time of Martin Luther King, where they would get, the haters, the bigots, would get other black ministers to condemn Martin Luther King, to talk against him, to say he's a troublemaker. Yes, they would get other black ministers, other black Christian ministers were put on the payroll to condemn Martin Luther King as a troublemaker. So that's not surprising that you can get people from the target group to condemn their own. It's not surprising. Okay? And these people are just agents of this widespread bigotry. Now, so let's go ahead now and deal with the reality of this and expose the conspiracy based on the facts. Islamic teachings. Is there such an Islamic teaching that the Muslims are commanded to take over the world in a violent manner or any other way? Let's see what Islam says, the teachings of Islam say. First, we'll turn to the Quran, chapter 60, verse 8 and 9. All right? In the Quran, chapter 60, verse 8 and 9, here's what it says. And this verse, for anyone who wants to try to argue, has not been abrogated. You can't use the claim that, oh, that verse is abrogated. There are other verses that say to take over and kill. First of all, no such verses exist. But for those who would try to attempt to say that, oh, that verse is abrogated, etc., well, no, I know of no scholarly or tafsir or whatever that says that it has been abrogated. All right, so chapter 60, verse 8 says this. It says, Allah forbids you not, respecting those who fight you not for your religion, nor drive you forth from your homes, that you show them kindness and deal with them justly. For surely Allah loves the doers of justice. Okay? The next verse, verse 9, it says, Allah forbids you only respecting those who fight you for your religion, and drive you forth from your homes, and help others in your expulsion, that you should make friends of these, and whoever makes friends of them, these are the wrongdoers. For those who don't understand that, what the verse is saying, that Allah does not stop you. He does not prohibit you from being kind and just to those people who are not trying to fight you because of your profession, your professing that you are a Muslim, nor driving you from your homes or your lands. He says to these people who are basically those who are being peaceful with you, be peaceful with them. He said it is only in regards to those who are fighting you because of your religion and trying to drive you from your homes and helping others in trying to drive you from your homes, that these you don't befriend, because these people are trying to do you harm. All right? So as you can see, there is no call for a violent takeover, as the people say, as the haters and the bigots have been saying. All right? The Quran, what does it say? What does it say as far as, calling people to Islam? Let's turn to chapter 16, verse 125. That's chapter 16 of the Quran, verse 125. And now here's what it says in regards to calling people to Islam. It says, call to the way of your Lord with wisdom and goodly speech, and dialogue with the people. Have a discourse with them in the best manner. Surely your Lord knows best him who strays from his path, and he knows best those who go aright. This is how we are supposed to call people to Islam. We don't have to fight and make you become a Muslim. No, we invite you to Islam with wisdom and good speech. We're supposed to try to win you over by the intellect. The intellect with the argument of proof and evidence, not by force of might. Obviously, that would do no good. What good would that do anybody? Right? If you're forced to become Muslim, you became Muslim because you were beat up, because you were threatened with a sword or a gun or some foolishness like that. What benefit would you have? Who wants people to join a religion by force? Obviously, the people will be of no substance. Those followers, it would be no benefit to that religion to have you join because of force. And people naively believe that. I'll tell you right now, I would not be a Muslim if that's what Islam taught. If Islam taught that to make people Muslim by that, I'm telling you right now, I would not be a Muslim if that's what Islam taught. So it's clear that it does not teach that. That is not a teaching of Islam, to force people to become Muslim. We ought, again, to have the people, invite them with wisdom and intellect, with wisdom and good speech. This is how we're supposed to invite you. Now, what about this? Again, let's go further about this Islam becoming the dominant way. Well, what does Islam say about that? Let's turn to chapter 9 of the Quran, chapter 9, verse 32. Chapter 9, verse 32. And here's what it says. Chapter 9, verse 32. It says, they desire to put out the light of Allah with their mouths, and Allah will allow nothing save the perfection of his light, though the disbelievers hate it. He it is who sent his messenger with guidance and the religion of truth, that he meaning he Allah, not he Muhammad, not he the Muslim, that he Allah may cause it to prevail over all other ways, though the polytheists are averse to it. So what's this verse saying? This verse is not saying that the Muslims are going to make it prevail or should make it prevail. This verse is showing that Allah himself, God Almighty himself, will make it prevail. So that means even if the Muslims didn't do any what we call dawah, meaning if the Muslims didn't go out and invite people to Islam, that Allah would still make it prevail. He would still make it spread, whether we took action to invite people or not. Allah himself will make it spread. Does that sound like a world Muslim conspiracy? No, we're leaving that to the power of God, meaning by his own power, he himself will make it spread and prevail. And guess what? That's exactly what's happening. Because Muslims, we don't have the equivalent of what the Christians have. We don't have a 700 club. We don't have mega mosques like they have mega churches. where the churches or the mosque is like a stadium, filled with people, giving and donating, hundreds of thousands of dollars, or sometimes millions of dollars to spread Christianity. We don't have that, unfortunately. We should, but we should have that. The Muslims, we should be just as serious about our faith as the Christians are. We give the Christians credit on that. But the Muslims, we are not doing that. We don't have hundreds of Muslim TV stations. Excuse me. Where we are promoting our faith on various TV stations, like the Christians have, TVN, CVN, Trinity Broadcast Network, Christian Broad. We don't have those things, unfortunately. You see? We don't have people willing to spend hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars to send missionaries to Africa, to Asia, and other places in the world to help people come to Christianity. The Muslims don't have that equivalent, where we send groups that are supported by members of a certain mosque or whatever to go to Africa and go to the South America, the jungles, and invite people to Islam. Unfortunately, we should have that, but we don't. Not on the level that the Christians have. And yet, despite that, all reports I've seen say Islam is the fastest growing religion. That's how it becomes dominant. Not by the Muslims, but by Allah Himself making it happen. And when you look, you have to say, well, who's doing it? Because the Muslims are not sure enough aren't doing it on that larger scale. So it has to be what Allah says, that He Himself will make it prevail and spread. And that's what's happening. Okay? That is what's happening. That it is spreading on its own, basically. Because the Muslims, sure enough, are not doing a lot in that area. Okay? So that's the reality as far as the teachings of Islam go. Okay? That, number one, the teachings of Islam don't promote that idea of the conspiracy to take over by force, you see, or that the Muslims are commanded to go ahead and, come with the force of threat of violence in order to spread the word. No, that's not what it teaches. Okay? We have a caller, so I'm going to take the caller's call, and then I'll continue with what I call the real-world reality of that fact. Meaning, what I mean by real-world reality is the current world situation of the Muslims even supporting such an ideology that the Muslims, would want to take over or have even the power to do so. So that'll be the next section I'm going to get into. Let's take the phone call. 718 area code. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, how's it going there? I just listened to you for the past couple of minutes, but I got to say that you're just so wrong, man. You're just completely blinded by what's going on.
Okay. Give me.
Seriously, and again, it has nothing to do against the Muslim religion or anything. It's the people behind this religion that basically may be hiding behind this religion that is causing this religion to look so bad.
So, but how am I blinded? What do you mean I'm blinded? Give me, can you explain?
You said, you don't have the propaganda machine like Christianity and other blah, 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 to spread the word of Islam. But on the other hand, if you look throughout history, Islam was spread through the sword, through fear.
No, that's not true. I'm sorry, that's not true.
That is very true because back in the old days, if the Jewish people, did not want to convert to Islam, they would be killed.
That's not true, sir.
That's how Islam.
Sir, I got to stop. That is not true. If you read the writings of Sir Thomas W. Arnold, who was a Western historian himself, he wasn't Muslim. He documented in his book that a lot of these stories of Muslims forcing people were myths created by Christian missionaries and biased and bigoted Western historians. Okay, there were Jews living under the Muslims in Spain. Okay, who were teachers themselves in Muslim universities in Muslim Spain and in other areas of the Muslim world. Okay, these groups still exist to this day. Christians still exist in many parts of the Middle East.
Yeah, I want to see a Jewish guy lives in Iran
Sheikh
right now.
There's Sheikh Amtadia. There's Jewish members of the parliament. I got the article from WorldNet Daily that Jewish members of the parliament, they are Jewish members of the Iranian parliament. When it was said about a year ago that supposedly Iran was attempting to make Jews wear some type of identification like was done in Nazi Germany, Jewish members of the Iranian parliament said that was a lie. So there are Jewish members of it. So it's you, sir, I'm sorry, who is just not aware of the fact. You are the one who's been blinded by the bigotry and the propaganda that I talked about at the beginning of the show.
No, not at all, because again, your religion, which is basically a religion that condones suicide bombing or Wahhabism.
I got to stop you there. No, it doesn't condone suicide bombing. Islam says that suicide is a sin. Chapter 4, verse 129 of the Quran says, do not kill yourself.
So why don't I hear the Muslim population or the Muslim leaders denouncing?
Come on, sir, we have people from all religions who do things wrong. There are members of the Christian Knights of the Ku Klux Klan who say Jesus condones their killing of black people and Jews. There are Christian abortion terrorists who blow up abortion clinics, assassinate abortion doctors. They say that Christianity supports that. So you're going to have that in every religion. But do they support that? No. And I gave you the proof.
These people are not head of state.
You're wrong, sir. I gave you the proof.
People are not head of state.
Islam does not support that. Islam does not support that. And again, I gave you the proof. The Quran, chapter 4, verse 129 says, do not kill yourself. I have the words of scholars.
Under certain other circumstances, you're allowed to free your land, whatever it is.
I know. Now, you're not allowed to kill yourself. No, you're not allowed in any
circumstance. Why do the leaders of those countries don't condone this? Why do they not? I didn't hear a single word from any Muslim country that would condone.
Have you looked? Go to Google. I dare you right now. Go to Google and put in Muslims condemn terrorism. You will get hundreds of thousands of websites and links of Muslim individuals, organizations condemning it. You didn't look. That's why you haven't seen it, because you didn't look. Thank you very much. Okay? You didn't look. You didn't attempt to look. That's all. You see? That's the problem, people. People don't look. You don't want to look. Many people, you don't want to look. You're not interested. That's why. You see? I said, you know what, let me see. I did it myself. I went to Google, I put in Muslims condemn terrorism, and let me see what happened. Hundreds of thousands of hits came up from Muslim organizations, okay? Muslim individuals. No, sir, you are blind. You just don't want to. If you want to be a bigot, then go ahead. I can't stop you. If you want to be in a state of denial and you want to justify your bigotry against Muslims, I can't stop you. But I presented the proof and the facts that Islam does not condone suicide bombing. I have the scholars. I gave you what the Quran says. Hey, even if you're defending your land, you still don't kill yourself, okay? You still are not allowed to kill yourself in defending your land. If you defend yourself, the idea is to stay alive, isn't it? If you're trying to defend your land and your people or whatever, the idea is to stay alive, not kill yourself in the process. If you get killed by your enemy, well, that's different. But the idea is to stay alive so you can defend yourself. So come on, that's not even a logical war tactic to kill yourself on purpose in battle. I mean, what benefit does that bring? So you're wrong, sir, and I gave the proof for that. So now, good. You know what? That's perfect that you brought that up. Now let's go into the real world reality of the facts about this situation, okay? To show you that in reality, like I said, this is a myth. There is no Islamic threat. Why? Why do I say that? Well, let's take a look. According to the Institute for Strategic Studies, it calculates that here these are the countries and their budget as far as weapons and things of that nature. Okay. Now this is countries. Now surely groups like Al Qaeda and whatever groups are out there, they don't even come close to the so-called countries that have a actual military budget. But here's what it says: the International Institute for Strategic Studies calculates. Now this is, again, these statistics are before the war, before the U.S. was involved before the U.S. because obviously the budget is bigger now that the United States is in the war with Iraq and Afghanistan. So these are pre-war statistics, and they're still large. Excuse me. All right, so the International Institute for Strategic Studies says that the United States has a military budget of $262 billion. That budget accounts for 37% of global military expenditures. Russia, Japan, and China will spend about $80 billion, $42 billion, $7 billion respectively. In other words, Russia spends about $80 billion. Now, Russia was at one time one of the closest to America as far as what they call superpowers. So them being the second in line, their budget is still way less than the United States. They only spend $80 billion. Japan, $42 billion. Excuse me. and China spends $7 billion. Now, the quote-unquote 6 rogue states, like, you know, the axis of evil type stuff, countries, those states, Cuba, Iran, Iraq, again, that was Iraq before the war, Libya, Syria, and North Korea, together have a combined annual military budget, right? They have a combined military budget of $15 billion. All of them together only come to $15 billion. Again, way less than United. That means you have to add them up together to get $15 billion, and they still don't come nowhere near our budget here in the United States. Nowhere near it. And then on top of that, the U.S. budget for covert operations, right, meaning, you know, operations that are funded by the CIA, etc., alone is still double that amount, meaning it's double the amount of that $15 billion. So what I'm saying about the reality, if our country, I'm from the United States, this is our country right here, our budget is that large, and again, it's larger now that we're in the so-called war on terrorism, right? With a budget like that, who can come close to us? Who's really a threat to us if we have a budget that is bigger than every country on the face of the earth? No, Russia, again, was the closest, and they're still at $80 billion. We have $262 billion, and again, it is more now. If the biggest, closest to a superpower budget is only $80 billion, and the countries that we consider to be, quote-unquote, dangerous, acts of evil, etc., have a combined budget of $15 billion, who really is a threat? None of them are really a threat, is my point. Now, if you take that number, break it down by group, what do you think Al-Qaeda's military budget is? What do you think Hamas's budget is? Hezbollah's budget? It surely is not $15 billion. I'm sure it's probably nowhere near those numbers. Who knows if it's even $1 million budget? So again, with our budget being that big, and the 6 rogue acts of evil countries are that small, and then you separate the groups, Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, that are called terrorist groups, right? How can they be a threat? How can they really be a threat? So that's what I'm saying. The real world threat, the reality. How can they really be a threat if our budget is so large? They can't come close to us. How can they do anything? How can they pose any type of threat when we have all this giant budget and this equipment, you know? And when I hear people talk about, I'm like, you know, are you being serious? When you talk about this so-called threat, are you really being serious with yourself? But again, this is the hype. This is the fantasies that people want to believe in because it helps them justify their bigotry. It helps them sit comfortable hating Muslims, hating Islam, hating Arabs, etc., to believe in this stuff. But when you look at the reality, you have to say, wait a minute, those people aren't a threat. Matter of fact, look further. We just heard about a week ago that our government just sold Saudi Arabia some weapons. How can you be a threat when you have to buy weapons from another person? They don't even produce their own weapons. They have to buy weapons from these people. How, again, can any Muslim country be a so-called threat? And on top of that, look, the United States has said that Saudi Arabia works with them. They're no threat. We always hear Fox News and others talking about Saudis are the head of the terrorism and etc. That's interesting because our government says something different. George Bush, President George W. Bush, on September 24th, 2001, he said this, and I quote, he said, as far as the Saudi Arabians go, they've been nothing but cooperative with us. They've been cooperative with the United States. So why is it our government says that they are cooperative, but others, Fox News, etc., keeps telling us that the Saudis are dangerous? And so I don't know, who do we trust? Do we take Fox News or do we listen to our government? I don't know. I really don't know whose word to take for it. You know what I mean? I really don't know whose word to take. But this is what they say. You see? We know that Pakistan. The United States government is on good terms with Pakistan. They support Musharraf. They support the leader of Egypt, Hosni Mubarak. They support these people. But yet everybody else keeps saying, oh, the threat. Really? Are you sure about that? So again, based on the real world situation, even if there was a so-called idea of Muslims like that, they don't even have the power to even affect something like that. Because they can't even hang, and what I mean by hang, compete with the budget that the United States has. Let's take another look. This is arms manufacturers and sales. Okay, these statistics go from 1998 to 2005. This is a report for the Congress, U.S. Congressional Research Service, Library of Congress, October 23rd, 2006. Arms sales by supplier nations. Okay, these are the top manufacturers and sellers of weapons. Number 1, United States of America. Number 2, Russia. Number 3, France. Number 4, Germany. Number 5, United Kingdom. Number 6, China, non-Western country. Then we go back to Western countries. Number 7, Italy. Other European countries on the list. And then after that, other nations. Notice the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. None of them are Muslim countries. None of them. Not a one in the top 3, top 4, top 5, top 10 are Muslim or Arab countries. Every one of them is a European or Western country. They are the top manufacturers of weapons. So if they are the top manufacturers of weapons, once again, how can any Muslims, again, even if they had such a thought, which they don't, but even if they had such a thought of some kind of world conspiracy to take over by force, look at them. They don't even stand a chance. Look, they don't even produce weapons. When they need to buy weapons, they buy weapons from Western powers. So tell me, how are they even a threat based on reality? You can believe all the fantasies you want. You can promote all the fear-mongering you want. But I'm asking you to take a look at reality. Reality says, look, the Western powers and European powers, they are the top manufacturers of weapons and the top sellers of weapons. Arabs have to buy weapons from you, right? They have to buy weapons from you. So how there can they be a threat when they don't even manufacture their own? They buy their weapons from you. So based on reality, again, it is a myth to believe that there is some world Islamic conspiracy, world Islamic threat. It's a myth. Reality says there's no such thing exists. Okay? No such thing exists. Okay? So, based on these realities, this is the facts. Again, we dealt with the teachings of Islam. Number 1, the teachings of Islam do not promote such an idea. Number 2, the real world reality shows that, as far as numbers go, military budgets, military equipment, etc., they don't have it. So again, even if they wanted to, even if there was such a conspiracy, they don't even have the actual equipment and budget to do so. If there was such a thing, and again, I'm saying that there is no such thing. That's what I'm saying, exposing the myth, because that's exactly what it is. It's a myth. It's a myth, just like it was the myth that the Jews want to take over Nazi Germany, want to take over Germany and the world. Just like it was a myth that blacks want to rape white women and the white man is in danger because the blacks are a threat and the Ku Klux Klan must rise and defend white America. Same thing like that myth. Just like it was a myth that the Native American is conspiring to kill the colonialists and, make everybody submit to Indian power. All those myths have gone down in history as the lies that have been thrown in the trash can. And hopefully people will wake up and throw this lie, the Islamic threat myth. It will go in the same garbage as the birth of a nation myth and the Jewish conspiracy myth and all the others. Because reality is just saying that it's just not the way it is. It's just not the way it is. Okay? If anybody wants to chime in, please. I see I have some listeners here. If you want to express your opinion, by all means, call in, and, tell us what you think. Tell us what you think. We'd like to hear from you. Okay? But in the meantime, we will continue. So, again, just looking at the facts of reality, everyone, and you have to come to the conclusion that it is what it is. It's just a myth. It's just nothing more than the promotion of bigotry and hatred. That's all it is. Just another attempt to demonize a group. If you look throughout Western history, there's always been some group that they demonize. And especially me being here from America, it's always a group, right? If it's not the black American, it's the Latino American. Right now, Latinos are also being the threat, you know, the illegal immigrant, the browning of America, right? We see this on Fox News. The browning of America. This is what they're worried about, the browning, they call it, the browning of America. Of course, there's racial undertones there. So if it's not the African American, it's the Latino American. If it ain't that, it's the Arab American, Muslim American, the Japanese American. Remember, they were put in the camps. And we've seen, what's her name, Michelle Malkin, right? She wrote her book, In Defense of Internment. You would think that people would find that idea abhorrent. That they say, you know what, we don't want nothing to do with that. What are you talking about, concentration camps, huh? Putting Muslims in camps? But she wrote her book, In Defense of Internment. You would think most people, and of course, yes, let me be clear, yes, there are segments of our population in America that did stand against that. I'm not denying that they weren't. So good for those people who stood and challenged that idea. But it's still alarming that people in this day and time are still trying to promote such ideas of putting Muslims in camps. You see? Of, you know, watch out for the Muslim American. You can't trust them. That's dangerous. That leads to what happened in Nazi Germany. And how many of you saw or listened to what's the guy's name? His name is Klein. I forgot. He has a radio show where he did a spoof. He pretended to call for the labeling of Muslims to have some type of identification on their clothing or on their bodies, like was done in Nazi Germany. And to his surprise, and to my surprise too, many of the callers called in and supported that idea. They said, yes, let us make the Muslim American wear something to identify, a tattoo, a number, something on their clothes. I'm like, what? In this day and time? In this day and time, people are not waking up and saying, oh, that's crazy. I think it's Jerry Klein. Yeah, Jerry Klein radio show. So that lets me know that, unfortunately, my fellow Americans, you are potential Nazis, some of you. Some of you are potential Nazis. You'll do the same thing that was done in Nazi Germany. You'll sit by while fellow Americans, without charge or trial, will be put in camps or put to wear labels, just like they didn't challenge it in Nazi Germany. Some of you, I know some of you will speak out. I know you will. But I'm saying the fact that there are some who support that idea is alarming. It is very alarming. I will give credit, too, to many of the college universities. I've seen where college students of all races, all backgrounds, Muslim, Arab, African-American, Latino, and white, have come together to challenge these people, to challenge David Horowitz when they try to spread their bigotry, to challenge Daniel Pearl, Robert Spencer. That's good. Keep it up. What I would recommend, though, the advice I would give, though, as opposed to walking out on them, like I've seen on some of the videos where the students, when the person commences to talk, they all get up and walk out or put up signs. What I would say, if you would take my advice, is instead of walking out, listen to them. Stay and listen to the speech, yes. Challenge them at the question and answer period, see? Get your facts together. Let him or her give their little speech, you know, their little lecture. When it's time for question and answer, instead of walking out on them, no. Challenge them during the question and answer period. Bring your facts and refute what they're saying. You see? That's the better course, I would say, as opposed to walking out. So if you would take that, I think that would be a better way to handle them as opposed to walking out, is to challenge them. Stay and listen to it, take your notes, and then counter his argument when it's time for question and answer. That's, to me, would be the better way to handle that for those. But again, it's good to see that people are standing up, that people are realizing this campaign for what it is. That it is nothing more than hate mongering. It's bigotry. And, you know, I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see the young people are awake when it comes to those things. Again, if anyone wants to call in, please do. Please do call in. Let's see, what else can we go into? So just again, I'm just restating that as I started, for anybody who came in late, that when I say exposing the myth of the Islamic threat, that we are not denying that there are Muslims in the world that are involved in wrongdoing. We are not denying that. But we are denying that those individuals who are a minority, who are a minority in the Muslim world. We are saying that those people do not pose a threat to the way of life of the West. None whatsoever. I gave the proof. They don't pose a threat in reality because, again, as I showed you from the numbers, that the West has a very large budget when it comes to military expenditures and military operations, covert operations, etc. You see? So in reality, those people don't pose a threat. I don't know how many people are, I don't know how many members are members of Al-Qaeda or any other group that is said to be a terrorist group. I don't know how many people. But you could be sure that if you took the numbers of those groups, they don't even represent 1% of the Muslim world population. They say they are what? 1.2 billion Muslims, right? So if you took the numbers that are in Al-Qaeda and other groups that are supposed to be, that are terrorist groups, right, and add them up, those numbers would not add up to 1%. They would not even equal 1% of the Muslim population. So again, what threat is there really? In reality, Muslims are contributing to the West. You see? Those who are converts, who were born and raised in the West, such as myself, and we become Muslim, we still live here and we are not involved in any subversive activity. I respect the laws of my country and I do the best to obey them, as do other Muslims. I may disagree with policies and things of that nature, but I'm not about to go and get myself involved in any foolish acts or criminal activity. You see? I'll express my opinion as I'm doing now, or I'll try to support those who are about change, like Barack Obama or Ron Paul, for example. You see? Ron Paul, he says what I said. So if anybody has a problem, Ron Paul, who's not Muslim, has said what I said. Ron Paul has addressed the issue, saying that, look, the problem is not that they hate us just for the sake of hating us. He said, look, they have a problem with us because of things that our country has done to them in the past and currently. Our country in the past has supported coups against leaders from the Middle East, right? Overthrown the leaders of Iran and installed puppets who were oppressive to the people, who didn't treat the people fair, who didn't give the people democracy. That's why they're mad. That's why they have a history of animosity. You see? Ron Paul points these things out. You see? So again, don't blame me. Don't say, oh, no, because Ron Paul, he's not Muslim. And he has rightfully pointed out these problems that our country has had in its history and in its current dealings. You see? So these are the issues that we have to talk about and express these things and try to support those people who are about those things. And that's why, honestly, I like Ron Paul for addressing those issues and saying that he would be to one of those who would try to make the change that. And rightfully so. You see? So, as I said, most Muslims, the majority, are contributing to the West. Yes, and yes, there are people who are problems. But that goes to any group. There are Christian groups in America that seek the overthrow of the government and to implement some type of, extreme Christian ideology. You see? There are Jewish groups that have that. There are white supremacist groups that have this idea. You see? So that goes to every group. There are many groups throughout the country from different backgrounds, different races, different ideologies, religions, who have such a dangerous, agenda about our country too, and in other places as well. So don't just try to put it on the Muslims, but we know the majority of the people are a law-abiding people, whether they be Muslims or not, right? And, let me deal with this too, this threat of the foreigner. They always like to promote the Arab Muslim to make it look like, the Arab Muslim is a threat and we got to watch out for immigration, all these different things. Look, the majority of Muslims in America, I'm not sure about the UK or in Europe, but I know in America, the majority of Muslims in the United States are Americans. I have statistics right here. Let's see, where's my article here? I have statistics here that the majority of the Muslims in the United States, this is from the Houston Chronicle by Tara Dooley, and they did a study of the mosque in the United States, and here's what they found. They estimate that there's about 6% of the converts are Hispanic, 6%. About 27% of the converts are white Americans. 64% are African American. So all the groups, Latino, white American, African American, that equals the majority of the converts. The majority of Muslims in America are Americans. So all this talk about watch out for the foreigners is nonsense. The majority of Muslims are fellow Americans, okay, who are law-abiding citizens, who respect the laws of our country. We're Muslims, though. That's all. But we still respect the laws and we abide by the laws. And yes, for those who promote this idea that, I always hear that too. And it's so funny to hear that. It's almost insulting when I hear people say, if you heard a terrorist in your mosque, would you turn him in? What do you say? Of course. But the fact that you think that there are people talking openly in our mosque is also is amusing at the same time alarming. That you would think that these people would foolishly speak out in front of everybody in public to say, oh, yes, tomorrow I'm planning to do this. Who's going to join me? How foolish would that be? Who knows? You don't know if there's FBI agents in the mosque, CIA agents, undercover agents listening. But that just goes to show you the willingness of people to believe in their fantasies and justify their hatred. The fact that they would even think that people are actually sitting in mosques, publicly telling you that they're planning to do a terrorist act, publicly saying, oh, hello everybody, assalamu alaikum, we're looking for recruits to do some acts. Who's willing? Raise your hand, see me at the front. You see what I'm saying? The fact that people think that it's insulting to me. It's insulting to me. And I'm sure it's insulting to many Muslims that people actually are so naive to think that that's actually what's going on. And to think that Muslims wouldn't, if a person did do that in public, that Muslims wouldn't say anything. Say anything to that person, call the police, the FBI. I mean, come on. You see what I'm saying? So yes, Muslims, the majority of Muslims in the United States are fellow American-born people who just converted to Islam. And the majority of Muslims do not support any subversive activity, criminal activity, etc. And yes, would call law enforcement if such was made apparent out in the open, or in secret, for that matter. But again, I'm referring to because people always promote this idea that people in the mosque are openly recruiting and Muslims are just sitting by, not saying anything because supposedly Muslims just support it, so they sit by and quiet and don't say anything while some member of Al-Qaeda announces that he's Al-Qaeda and is publicly, asking for recruits. You know what I mean? So, so there it is that the majority of the Muslims, at least in America, are Americans. Again, I'm not sure about the UK, but the same rhetoric that's used here in America is used in the UK. The promoting the fear of immigrants, promoting this fear of Muslim immigrants, and all this different nonsense. When most of those people are coming because they're looking for a better life. Unfortunately, their countries couldn't give it to them, which is unfortunate. That they have to go to non-Muslim countries to seek a better life because their own countries are in the terrible in the conditions that they may be in, that they have to come to non-Muslim countries to seek a better way. That's unfortunate. The Muslim countries should provide them. But that also connects back to what we talked about earlier, that a lot of times, unfortunately, our government supports many of the leaders of those countries who keep those countries in the conditions that they are in, where the people have to leave if they seek a better life, which is unfortunate. And that's what I'm saying. That, like Ron Paul said, that we should represent what we say we represent. If we represent freedom and justice and all these different things, then we need to stand by that. Right? If we're about that, then don't support the military dictator of such and such country. Don't support the king of such and such country, or the prime minister if he's corrupt of such and such country. Right? Don't support him. But of course, people say, "Oh, well, it's the interest." Well, I mean, again, interest. What? What interest? If you're about something, be about it. Right? If you say you're about it, then it doesn't, I don't care what kind of gain I'll get by supporting the dictator. The dictator is contrary to what our principles are. I don't care if I'm going to get oil for our country if we support this dictator. If he is against what we stand for, then you don't get our support. You know, maybe I'm not dealing with reality. But to me, that's how I carry on, right? I stand by what I believe in, regardless of whatever gain I'm going to get, monetarily or whatever, right? I have to stand by my principles and say, well, look, you're not, you contradict what I stand for. Therefore, I'm not going to align myself with you. Okay? So this is where sometimes many of the problems that we see in the world come from. So, again, just to wrap up, we have a few more minutes left. Again, if anybody wants to come in, call in before we close up, please do. But just recapping what we went over about the myth of the Islamic threat, that, again, this idea of the Islamic the threat put forward is nothing more than propaganda, the same type of the same type that was put forward by Joseph Goebbels and Julius Streicher of the Nazis in Germany. It's the same type. It's the same type as that put forward by the Ku Klux Klan in the early 1900s or late 1800s. Excuse me. It's that same type of propaganda that they put forward of the threat of the blacks in America. Right? Same type of threat, same type of myth that was put forward about the Native American threat against, same thing, against the white America. Same type of so-called threat that was put forward by the Nazis, that the Jewish threat. The Jews want to take over. They want to take over the world. They want to take over Germany, right? You can't trust them. Same myth, same nonsense that was put forward by those people is the same nonsense that's being put forward by the Joseph Goebbels of today. All right? They are the Joseph Goebbels of today, promoting this anti-Muslim bigotry, this fear-mongering, this distrust of the Muslim people, that you look at the Muslims, you know, you can't trust them. It's the same type of propaganda and falsehood that's being put forward. So much so, too, and let me address this point, too, that, you know, they're really, because Joseph Goebbels, he was really proficient at his propaganda, you see. He was very proficient at it, as we talked about, so much so that the Germans didn't do anything. That when it was time to do harm, physical harm to the Jews, right, most of the Germans didn't do anything because of the profoundness and efficiency that Joseph Goebbels had. And these people are trying to do the Robert Spencers, the David Hallwards, the Daniel Pipes, etc. They are very proficient as well, to the point that, as I said, I saw the video on hotair.com where Robert Spencer was criticizing the Islamist peace campaign in the UK, trying to get people to sort of like be distrusting of the campaign. They say, oh, look, see, the Muslims are trying to put on their good face for you. They're trying to promote this campaign with smiling Muslim women and smiling Muslim men, that they're really nice people. But he's really telling you, he's really saying, oh, don't trust them. I saw him criticizing how the Muslims have an outline how to promote this peace campaign, to invite Muslims to the non-Muslims to the mosque, offer refreshments, cookies, cakes. So in other words, he was promoting it as this like, oh, but see, they're trying to, you know, they're trying to be slick about it. They're trying to win you over with trickery to give you cakes and so you can lower your guard, but don't fall for it, basically. And see, that type of agenda to me is dangerous. You know, from people like that. So in other words, we can't win. If when we speak out against terrorism, we don't really mean it. If we try to invite you to tell you Islam is about peace, don't trust it. You see? So if we keep our mouth shut, then you guys say you don't hear us. When we speak out about it, then you tell us, oh, you're just saying that because you're just to make us, you know, to appease us, but you don't really mean it. So it's like, wow, we can't win for losing. Okay, everyone, our time is up. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you benefited, and we'll hope to see you again next week. Thank you for listening.